When was the last time you thought a game was too difficult and had to switch on easy mode? Did it make you feel unsettled that you're not playing on the same playing ground as the rest? Today, Fetch'd will be diving deep into an often underrated option in video games: easy mode. That mode that many players shun for considering it too easy or for cowards. But what if I told you it's much more than that? The easy mode has more value than people think, and you're about to find out. Since the early days of the video game industry, difficulty options have been a big deal. We're talking about classic games like Space Invaders when it was in the arcade. When Space Invaders came out in 1978, it already let players pick different levels. They could change stuff like how fast the enemies moved and how aggressive they were. The harder the setting, the tougher the game got, with aliens zipping around quicker and getting more aggressive. Back then, it was designed with the limits of design tools and storage space in an arcade. This simple change in speed and aggression encouraged people to keep playing in arcades by giving them another chance for each coin they put in. Players could try to get better scores, which would show their initials to other players. But even though it was partly about making money, it took a lot of planning and skill to make games that kept players coming back for more. Soon later came Wolfenstein 3D, a game that totally changed the first-person shooter scene. Despite its fast-paced action, it offered 4 difficulty modes, from the easy, "Can I play, Daddy?" to the intense, "I am death incarnate." These modes tweaked things like how accurate you had to be, how much ammo you got, and how tough the enemies were. Each level cranked up the challenge, pushing players to hone their skills and work harder. Other examples like the classic Civilization series, which started back in 1991, had different settings. They realized that not everyone wants the same level of challenge. Some folks care more about the story, while others want to push themselves. And that's where the easy mode comes in handy. It lets players of all ages and skill levels enjoy the game without getting too frustrated. Think about those times after a long day when all you want to do is unwind and dive into a virtual world without stressing about tough challenges. The concept of fairness in gaming has always been subjective, varying from player to player. Over time, many games have sought to find the delicate balance, sometimes overcorrecting in one direction or the other. Going back to the timeline, as the home console market expanded, gaming transitioned from paying per life to buying complete games for endless play. This shift was gradual, and the arcade-style game design persisted for years. Even games intended for home entertainment, like Super Mario Bros., Castlevania, or Ninja Gaiden, could be completed in a single afternoon. This meant that players had more opportunity to replay these games more than they used to, in order to achieve better scores. Achieving these quick completion times required extensive learning, practice, and mastery of controls, enemy patterns, and level layouts, often shared through word of mouth. In those times, creating a game that was replayable was deemed as engaging. Despite external influences, game studios' ability to craft engaging experiences, not just challenging ones, set them apart. Challenges cultivated skills, which brought satisfaction, even if progress was slow, as long as it felt like a personal triumph. Designing with this in mind was an art, focusing not just on difficulty at a specific point, but on a gradual difficulty curve leading to a seemingly insurmountable challenge at the game's start. Fast forward till today, when we talk about difficulty in video games, we're referring to more than just a linear replay of a game. Since then, studies have shown that there are different kinds of challenges a game is designed with. Video games became interactive, so players actively participate in them. This means that the relationship between the player and the game can require various skills now. For instance, logical difficulty involves understanding and using the game's rules, like in graphic adventures. Tactical difficulty is about creating long-term strategies, as seen in role-playing games. Spatial difficulty is related to navigating and remembering locations in non-linear levels, such as in Metroidvania-style games. And mechanical difficulty is about being skilled at executing actions through the game's controls, like in precise platformer games such as Celeste. But why are these difficulty levels important? They're crucial for providing players with a satisfying and captivating experience. According to psychological studies, the key to an enjoyable gaming experience lies in finding the right balance between the challenge and the player's skills. If the game is too easy, players will get bored quickly because they don't feel challenged. On the other hand, if the difficulty level exceeds their abilities, they'll end up frustrated and anxious. This is where difficulty options come into play. By letting players adjust the challenge level, they can find that sweet spot where they're pushed but still feel capable. It keeps them hooked, focused, and really enjoying the game. Getting into that enjoyable, rewarding flow state is key for maximum fun. Plus, having difficulty choices means players of all ages, skills, and experiences can enjoy the same game. Beginners can start with an easier level, while pros can tackle tougher challenges. It opens up the game to more people and makes everyone feel included. But creating good difficulty options is an art. It's not just about tweaking enemy health or damage. The best difficulty settings go further, changing things like enemy smarts, gameplay patterns, and other elements elements that really make the experience more fun and meaningful. That's why playing on easy mode isn't just about convenience. Studies show that playing at a difficulty level that matches our skills can make the game more enjoyable and keep us more engaged. Simply put, when we feel challenged but not overwhelmed, we're more likely to stay interested and keep playing. Unfortunately, many modern games haven't gotten the difficulty options right. Sometimes there's something called rubberbanding, where the game adjusts the difficulty on the fly instead of keeping it consistent. Basically, if the game sees that the player is struggling too much, it lowers things like enemy health or damage to make it easier. But if it sees the player breezing through, it cranks up the challenge by increasing those factors suddenly. But this is completely pointless and goes against what makes gaming fun. First off, it totally ruins the immersive experience and the feeling of facing a consistent challenge. 1 minute, enemies might be knocking you out too easily, and the next, you're practically untouchable. It feels totally fake and ruins the whole gaming vibe we were talking about earlier. Plus, rubber banding stops players from really getting better at the game by facing a steady and well-matched challenge. If the game keeps compensating for their strengths and weaknesses, they'll never really learn and improve. But there's more. In harder difficulty levels, it's super common to run into what they call bullet sponges. Enemies that soak up way too many bullets to beat, sometimes needing 10 or 15 shots instead of the 2 or 3 you'd need on easier modes. We've seen this in games like Wolfenstein: The New Order and Call of Duty Ghosts. But the problem is, it's not really about testing your skills as a player. It just turns into a boring waste of ammo and an overuse of cover mechanics. And several complaints have surfaced regarding this game mechanic, stating that the gameplay often involves simply holding down the shoot button without much engagement. They highlighted an example where shooting an unarmored human with half a magazine from an assault rifle, only for them to survive, felt unrealistic and disconnected from the gameplay experience. This user mentioned that such instances took them out of the immersive experience, making it feel as though their bullets were ineffective, akin to paintballs. I think this comment I read really highlighted the situation well. It's the spongy aspect that usually gets me. The way in even some modern games, they'll just take the shots, maybe flinch a little, keep on coming. No reaction, no damage. Just a sponge. And he then compares them with the enemies in Doom 2016 and Eternal, which, although they require a lot of bullets, at least have satisfying and realistic hit animations. But not all is lost. Some games have stood out for their great difficulty options, offering truly personalized experiences. Take The Long Dark, for example, where higher difficulty doesn't mean enemies with spongy health or exaggerated damage. Instead, their numbers are reduced, but challenges come from tower resource management, more extreme weather conditions, and the consequences of your own reckless decisions. It's a challenge that encourages a more careful and realistic approach. Another game worth mentioning is Chrono Arc, which offers difficulty modes where bosses introduce new mechanics that force players to completely change their combat strategy. Plus, there are other optional risk and reward modifiers like the Blood Mist for the bravest players. These examples show that some game developers are aware of criticisms about bullet sponges and rubber banding. They're choosing more creative and challenging approaches to high difficulty levels. Instead of just facing enemies with tons of health, these practices test adaptability, decision-making, and skills. So to conclude, I personally think that easy mode isn't just a way to cop out of a challenge. It creates different opportunities and challenges us in other ways than just hitting sponges. If done right, simplifying games might make them more accessible. Smoother mechanics, better reaction for realism, and more strategic thanks to more versatile creation engines. So, gamers, next time someone scoffs at the easy mode, remind them that games are meant for fun, and everyone enjoys them differently. In the end, a good game is all about the experience. Whether you have fun playing, that's what matters.